Okay, great. And so we're going to go ahead and continue where we left off.
All right.
And that was actually, we got through more than half of our first paragraph. And
Great.
we left off with the portion that mentioned Francois Ier and Charles Quint.
Right.
And
Yes.
actually, and I know I already mentioned this, but I just wanted to talk about it one more time because it's very French and it's very particular. And it's
Mm-hmm.
this don, this DONT that we
Mm-hmm.
find in that passage. I just wanted to go over that one more time. So, of course,
Mm-hmm.
in this case, it's ce don, which is its own thing. But I just want to focus in on don because before we talk about ce don, I think it's a good idea to kind of have a feel for what don is doing.
Mm-hmm.
So in French, I think I might have mentioned this before. Certain word choices are just grammatical. French is very particular about prepositions and grammatical roles.
Mm-hmm.
So don is what we call a relative pronoun. It's a linking word when we have two ideas, and to avoid a redundancy, we want to combine the two ideas in one sentence. Don't is one
Mm-hmm.
of those linking words, but we use
Yeah.
it in a very particular case. And again, that is to replace the preposition de
Mm-hmm.
followed by something that's triggering don't. So, as a simple example, if we have two ideas, um, I'm talking about a movie. I'm talking about the movie, and the
Mm-hmm.
movie is French. And we want to combine that. The movie I'm talking about is French. So I'm talking about the movie would be Je parle du film.
Mm-hmm.
The movie is French. Le film est français. So to talk about something in French, parler de. So there's this de that I have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
So when I put that all together, it gives me le film dont je parle est français. Literally something like the movie about which I'm talking is
Right.
French. And I'll go ahead and send that to you in WhatsApp so you can see maybe what that looks like. But that don't is being triggered by, again, replacing de when we're trying to put these two ideas together into one sentence. Can you read the example sentence there? Le film dont je parle est français.
Yes. The example. Okay. Le
Yes.
film dont je parle est français.
Très bien. So this don't is just very typically French. It's triggered to replace de. So I just wanted to briefly go over that again because it's
Yeah.
a very particular French thing. Voilà. Très bien.
And it's not literary, it's an everyday
Oh,
language
great
thing.
question. Everyday language. Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
literary at all. It is required in the case where we want to replace de in this way and put two ideas together. That's a great question. Because when we try to translate it literally, if I say about which, no one says it in English and it's very, very high level. But that's just a literal translation. No, in French,
Right.
it's extremely not only common or standard, it's required. If you're not
Mhm.
able to use it, you're not speaking correctly on a basic level, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes.
Très bien, très bien. So if we're good with that, we can continue with the next portion. It starts with cette
Mhm.
croyance. And once again, can you go ahead and try and read that portion? Maybe we can read up to the semicolon there.
Yes. Yeah, that's the natural break.
Yes.
Okay, so cette croyance survivait pendant quelques secondes à mon réveil.
Réveil, très bien. Okay, very nice job with pronunciation. If I may ask, as an aside, why do we think that is? Have you listened a lot? Have you studied pronunciation in any sort of way?
So I did initially study it in textbooks,
I see.
so which is the not the best way. But I've watched a lot of French
I
film
see.
and music, and
Mm.
so I think I may have picked up
I think you
some
did.
from that.
Is it
Yeah,
was That was very good, very good. For example, with pendant, right, that nasal sound, the en and the
Mhm.
an, or also all
Right.
of these silent t's and that we have in there. So,
Well, and some of
mhm.
that came from our conversation the other day too.
Oh, that's good. That's good to know that
Yeah,
that was helpful.
for
Then
sure.
that's good. But
Very much.
but Very good. So, just a few notes. Seconde, and this is an exception that's
Mm.
particular actually to the word seconde. The C
Mm.
usually
Mm-hmm.
would sound like a hard C, like a K, in most any other word. For whatever
Mm.
reason, in seconde, it happens to sound like a G. And this is,
Mm.
I can't think of another instance. It's literally with this word. So that gives
Yeah.
us seconde. Can we say that? Seconde.
Seconde.
Très bien. And I saw that you corrected yourself, but I'll just point it out. We have this réveil at the end with the EIL. That's kind of a set combination that is pronounced A, as you said. But can
Mm-hmm.
we say that again? Réveil.
Réveil.
Très bien, c'est ça. As far as meaning, what do you understand from this portion here?
Oh, and just a question.
Oh, yes. Hmm.
The A,
Yes.
that accent is just always there. It doesn't really, I mean, I guess
Great, great question.
it
So
would be
first,
or
mm-hmm.
something.
And it is pronounced ah. It doesn't
Mm.
change the pronunciation. That it doesn't. However, there is an ah without an accent with a different role and meaning. So ah
Mhm.
with the accent is a preposition. So
Okay.
sometimes, depending on how we're using it, it might translate to or at.
Mhm.
In other words, I'm going to Paris. Je vais à Paris. It's that sort
Mhm.
of preposition. But other times it's used in set expressions, or there are certain verbs that require the use of ah. For example, to begin to do something. Commencer happens to use the verb à. So I'm beginning to read. Je commence à lire.
Mm.
But at any rate, à is considered a preposition. Now, à without the accent, the pronunciation is the same. But in that case, it actually comes from the verb avoir, which means to
Mm.
have, and it's the
Mhm.
third person singular. So the il, elle,
Yeah.
a present tense. So if I
Mm.
want to say he has three dogs, il a trois chiens, for example.
Mhm.
So there is a difference, and the difference is what does it mean have, or is it the preposition? Does that make sense?
All right. Yeah. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
totally
Très
makes
bien.
sense.
That's a good question. Any other questions about this portion before we try to translate it?
No, let's get into it.
Très
So,
bien.
just to summarize where we've been up to now, because I use a
Yes,
lot of this context in my
yes,
translation.
that's
So
true.
he's asleep. He's falling asleep, reading. He
Hmm.
was starting to drift off and imagine that in
Yes,
his mind he was experiencing what was reading about. He was probably
right.
like living in the book.
Exactly.
So then this referring to that is
Yes.
cette croyance, so
Hmm.
that belief.
Yes,
I'm guessing survivre is survived
that's right.
or continued. Pendant is do it while
Exactly.
or for, I guess, for several
In this case,
seconds upon my awakening.
absolutely. Yeah, perfect. And going back to our survivre, which comes from survivre, it does
Hmm.
mean literally to survive. But as you said, in this context, it has a feeling of to continue, but the literal um, translation is to is survived. Très bien.
Yeah.
C'est exactement ça.
So
Very good.
he's come back awake after about
Mm-hmm.
a half hour sleep, and
Yes.
he had been thinking he was living the stories of the book, and then for a few seconds of his for
Yes.
some reason he's giving to precise second by second detail on
He's
this
giving us a
of
very
his mental
precise
state.
breakdown.
That even
Yes.
after waking up for a few seconds, he still was in the world of the book.
Yes, yes, which does happen. I mean, I haven't experienced
Hmm.
being in the world of a book, but I find that when you've just been dreaming or something, you wake up
Hmm.
and you have to adjust to reality.
Right.
So I understand that portion. Très bien, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think we mentioned before this idea of waking up. We had a verb previously, which was
Uh-huh.
éveiller, to wake up.
Éveillé.
And I mentioned that that was a little literary and that in everyday French will use the verb réveiller with the R.
Hmm.
Now we see here a noun, réveiller, and I just wanted to mention
Hmm.
that's linked to the verb réveiller or éveiller.
Hmm.
We see this pattern where they all have something to do with awakening, waking up. So they're all linked. And also, we mentioned this briefly before, but survivre is once again in the imperfect. We mentioned before that a
Hmm.
lot of the verbs here are in the imperfect because he's talking about his sleep patterns and how they used to
Yeah.
go night after night. So a habit or a routine in the past takes on this imperfect. And I just
Mhm.
wanted to briefly talk a little bit, because I don't think we did, about how we put together the imperfect in French, sort of the structure behind it. So it's a pretty consistent tense, which is rare as far as how we put it together. So for most verbs, if we take the verb and we put it in the present tense nous form to get our stem, take off the ONS. Most times that will give us our stem. And then we're going to add a
Mhm.
set of endings, and I'll send those endings to you. But we're going to add AIS, AIS, AIT. So
Mhm.
A as far as
Yeah,
pronunciation.
right. All sound the same.
Exactly, as usual. And then we have IONS, which is ion, IEZ, which is IE, and then AIENT, which also sounds like A. So it also sounds like the
Mhm.
singular. So
Yeah is the plural second person. Is that right?
that's right. That's the second person. And just to mention that vous can be plural, but it can also be formal. So I could
Mhm.
be talking to one person,
Mhm.
but if I want to be formal, I would use vous. So vous is
Mhm.
formal and or plural. Yes, but that's what we call the second person plural, the vous form. Exactly. So as an example, I'm going to send you the verb parler, just to talk,
Mhm.
conjugated in this imperfect. And this is what it looks like. Voilà. So we have je parlais, tu parlais, il, elle ont parlé, nous parlions, vous parliez, il, elle parlait. And again, it can be used to talk about habits, but another possibility
Mhm.
for the imperfect is the equivalent of was doing something. It's in the
Mhm.
past, but we're like jumping in the middle of it. I think we do the same thing in Spanish, right? It could mean was
Yes.
doing. So je parlais, depending on the context, could mean I was talking. I was talking to my friend when he
Right.
fell down, whatever it
Yes.
might be. So that's another possibility for why we might have the imperfect. But that's usually how it's put together for the majority of verbs, even verbs that are usually considered irregular. The one exception is the verb être, and the exception is the
Mhm.
stem. So for the verb être, the stem doesn't come from nous, which would be nous sommes, which is very irregular.
Mhm. Yeah.
The stem is E with the accent aigu, T. Et.
Yeah.
So I'm going to send you être. This is a very common verb that's put in the imparfait. Because
Mhm.
another thing, and I believe this is the same for Spanish, when we have verbs that aren't really action verbs, like to run, to
Mhm.
eat, things like to be, to
Mhm.
have, and we want to express it in the past. I was, I had. It's really common to use the imperfect tense for those verbs as well. So a lot of times when we just want to say, I was tired, things like that, it's going to
Mhm.
trigger the imperfect. So this is
Mhm.
être conjugated in the imperfect. J'étais, I was, tu étais, il, elle, on était, nous étions, vous étiez, ils, elles étaient. Voilà. And we see that the endings are still the same. It's just the stem that's irregular. Voilà.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to mention that. So also moving forward as we look, that can be a little clue. If we look at some of the endings of these verbs, you'll probably see there's some AIS, AIT, AI,
Mhm.
etc. You'll see those imperfect endings. Um,
Mhm.
but with that, any questions on that general idea?
No, that's good. That's good
Right.
information.
Très bien, très bien. So I just wanted to mention that. So now can we move on to our next portion of the sentence, starting with elle?
Yes. So okay. Elle ne choquait pas ma raison, mais pesait comme des oh my gosh,
That's right. Écaille. Mm-hmm.
écaille sur mes yeux et l'empêchait de se rendre compte que le bourgeois, so many vowels,
I know.
N'était pas allumé.
Yeah, I was thinking they're
All
really
right.
working us out here. Mais c'était bien, c'était bien. Just a few notes there.
Yeah.
C'était bien. So we have our word choqué. So the
Mm.
CH in French usually is going to be soft. It's going to sound like an
Okay.
SH.
Mhm.
Choqué. Choqué.
Okay.
Choqué. And then not too far from there, we have our word raison with the AI. Raison.
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 Okay.
Très bien. Raison. So AI a lot of times is going to give us
Raison.
that E sound. Raison.
Mhm.
Rhymes with the word for house, which is maison. Voilà.
Mhm.
Two words down, we have our peser, peser. We have
Okay.
this,
Posé.
and this S between two vowels is sounding like a Z. And then
Uh-huh.
oftentimes the letter E without an accent is giving us that sound.
Uh-huh.
Peser. Peser. And then we had our word écaille, and you did pronounce it correctly the first
Okay.
time. Écaille.
Okay.
So AIL is another set kind of combination. AIL
Uh-huh.
or double L gives us aïe. Aïe. So
Mhm.
that's where we're getting
Which is
écaille.
different from posé.
Can you we exactly
The AI
peser.
sound is
That's true.
is
Yes. So it's specifically AIL together. We need those three components
gives
all
us that
together. It
A.
gives us a totally separate sound, right? AIT. That's
Uh-huh.
right. Aïe. Aïe. So with the A AIT, what's happening there? First of all, the T is totally silent. It's not adding anything pronunciation wise. So that leaves us with AI. And just
Uh-huh.
with raison, we mentioned that
Mhm.
AI can sound like A, so that's
Mhm.
what's giving us poser. Also, as far as I guess it's the rhythm. The
Mm.
rhythm in French is very, very even. Each syllable usually
Mhm.
holds the same weight. So in English, we have a kind of swing, like we'll say
Mhm.
salad or things like that. But in
Mhm.
French, it's salade. It's very, very even.
Mhm.
So can we say this word again? Peser.
Posé.
Right. So it's not pesé, if that makes sense. It's pesé. It's
Uh-huh.
very, very
Posé.
even with the
Yeah.
pesé. C'est ça. Très bien. Any other questions about the combination there? Aïe. AIL.
No,
Très bien.
that's useful.
Yes, exactly. And then the final thing I want to mention is what we call liaison. So we have our word les,
Mm.
les. It's followed by a vowel.
Uh-huh.
When that happens, the S is going to sound like a Z. We're going to run it together.
Mhm.
Les empêchés. Can we say that? Les
Mhm.
empêchés.
Les empêcher.
Très bien, très bien. And you actually did liaison, which is very good. With mes yeux, there's liaison there, but you
Okay.
did that, and
Good.
that was very good.
I didn't
So,
even notice that.
oui,
Okay.
c'est bien. So, c'est bien.
Monsieur.
Très bien. And then everything else I think was good. We had our interesting word.
Well,
Yes, yes.
yeah, that's the word I was going to call out.
Yeah, bourgeois. Voilà, bourgeois.
Bourgeois.
Quite a word with all those vowels in there. So if we break down what's happening, we have two syllables. The BOU, I think we're okay with. That's
Mhm.
boo. Now the
Mhm.
GEOIR. So the E is not pronounced. The E is
Mhm.
not pronounced. It is there really to keep our soft G sound.
Yes, right.
Because if we didn't have it, it would be bougoir, which doesn't mean anything. It's
Mhm.
not a word in French. So the E is just so to protect that soft G, so to speak. So
Yes.
once we've done that, we're left with OI, which is wa. And then
Mhm.
we talked about that soft little R at the end. So joire,
Mhm.
joire, bourgeois. Can we say that one more
Bourgeois.
time? Bourgeois.
Bourgeois.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like mentally you're putting as a unit the GE as one
Exactly.
unit and the OIR is a separate
Absolutely.
bit.
Yes,
That
that's
makes
what.
sense. That's
Exactly.
helpful.
When I look at it, I'm not really factoring in the E pronunciation wise, if that makes sense. So it's not
Yeah,
seeming quite as convoluted. The GE, yes, is a unit. It just tells me this is a soft G sound. Exactly.
right.
Hmm.
Because I was just looking at an
Oh, of
EOI and thinking, how
course.
do I pronounce
That's
those
what you
three
would think.
vowels
And you
together?
did it. You did a good job. Absolutely. But
But you
that's,
don't have to. They
you
split.
don't have
So
to.
the E is
Exactly.
part of the J.
Exactly. And another very common example is if we want to say we eat, right? It's the verb
Mhm.
manger. So we're actually going
Mhm.
to see the E there for the exact same reason. So I'm sending it so you can see what that looks like. So nous mangeons, nous mangeons. And this is again to protect our soft
Emotion.
G
Yeah.
because usually we have manger, manger, the infinitive. We take off
Mhm.
the ER, we add the ONS, but the problem is that would give us nous mangons. which again, I don't believe
Uh-huh.
really exists. So the E is just added to soften the G, doesn't
Mhm.
really factor in as far as pronunciation. We're just going nous mangeons. Does that make sense? Nous mangeons. So that's a
Yeah.
very another common example. Très bien.
Interesting.
Très bien.
Yeah. That's good.
So with that, can we try to break down what's happening in this sentence in English?
Sure. So it starts with elle, which
Yes,
I'm refers back to croyance, I
exactly,
think.
which is feminine. Exactly.
Yeah. So that belief, ne choquez pas ma raison. So raison is thought or reasoning, yeah?
Yes, yes.
And
Raison usually
so
means thought and reasoning. Yes. Mm-hmm.
so that thought did not is it shock or
Literally, yes.
disturb?
Yes, yes, yes.
Um, yeah.
First of all, going back to the pronunciation of raison, it is a raison. Can we say that?
Raison.
Raison, raison.
Raison.
Très bien.
Well, what did I say?
I think I heard a raison. I heard more of an
Probably.
if I recall correctly.
Uh-huh.
So it is an
And
a.
it's
Mm-hmm.
eh.
Yes, a.
Wait, the difference is
Okay. The difference is between what we call a short e, like in the word
uh-huh.
bed or let,
Uh-huh.
raison,
Uh-huh.
versus a, a, raison. Do you hear that difference?
Hmm. Yes.
Versus a. And the A
Eh,
that I'm doing,
eh,
the correct sound
yeah.
we want, it takes much more effort. I'm literally having
Raison.
to do
Yeah.
what I call a Joker smile to make that
Uh-huh.
sound, right?
Raison.
Eh,
Yes.
A. And in this case, we're looking for the A sound. Raison. Raison.
Raison.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Voilà.
Okay.
C'est ça. Très bien. But as for meaning, yes, raison literally means reason. It can
Hmm.
also sometimes refer to the mind,
Hmm.
which we can think of it here. Like it didn't shock or disturb my mind. Like I wasn't disturbed. Mm-hmm.
Right. And by still living in this world of the book in a few seconds
Yes.
away.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So his reaction to that.
Yes.
Me pensé con
We.
so aquel, I'm thinking scales
That's
on
right.
my eyes.
Yes, that's right. And again, for
And pensé
pronunciation,
could be weighted.
that's exactly what it is.
Weighted, yeah.
Exactly. But pronunciation wise, we have
Pensé.
écaille, écaille,
Akai.
écaille,
Akai.
écaille. That AIL combination, aille. And then can we go again? We have peser,
I know.
peser,
Pusé.
peser,
Pusé.
peser. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With the buzzing.
Yeah, that's gonna take some getting
Oui.
used to the E. I think I've gotten a bad habit of
No, ça va. A
giving
lot
it
of
an
people see the E and they definitely think A. I think
A.
coming from Spanish, yeah, so it does take time,
Hmm.
but it is poser, très bien. Yes, now poser, here's another example of the imperfect with that AIT ending. Poser, the infinitive, PESER, like you said, does mean to weigh. So weighed, weighed. Comme des écailles, and you're right, that does mean scales, as in fish scales, the kind of scales that you might have on skin. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So weighed like scales
Mm.
sur mes yeux.
Okay. And then de comme des écailles.
Oui.
Écailles.
Oui. Yes.
Écailles. Um, the de doesn't really mean so in English I would expect that to be the scales that were on my eyes. But in this case it just means like scales is like a
Good.
simile.
Right. So
Yeah.
again, good old pronunciation. DES is de. Can we say that?
De.
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 If we say de, that would probably be DE, maybe, or something like
Uh-huh.
that. But DES is de. Now, meaning wise, de literally means some, in fact. Does that make sense? It
Mm.
means some. The would be les. Les would be the equivalent of the. And de is literally some. So some scales, like
Mm.
an uncountable number. It could be, who knows, 20, 100, 3.
Uh-huh.
But it is true that in English, a lot of times we drop the some. We would just say like
Mm.
scales. We don't need to say like some scales. It might even sound unnatural. But in French, although there are exceptions, for the most part, when we have a noun, we need something modifying it. We need at least some sort of article. So when we're talking about what the equivalent of some, we usually will have to include our, in this case, de, because it's plural. We cannot say comme écaille. That usually is just going to be incorrect.
Mhm.
So whereas
Mhm.
some is optional in English, excuse me, It usually isn't in French. We need to use it. So that's what's happening here. It's more like grammatically to make things correct. We need to include some sort of article. And because we're not talking about specific scales, we're just talking about scales in general, an uncountable number that's triggering the sum. Des écailles, if that makes any sense. Des écailles. So, for example, if I want to say, oh, I'm drinking coffee,
Hmm.
we don't need to say some coffee in English,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I will need to say, je bois du café.
Hmm.
Du represents some, masculine. I can't say je bois café. It's
Hmm.
incorrect, right? Je bois du café. So we're always going to have that some spelled out explicitly in French, if that makes sense. So, comme des
Yeah.
écailles. Très bien. Any other questions on our écailles here, or des?
No,
Très bien.
no.
So we have mes pesées comme des écailles sur mes yeux, weighed like scales on my eyes.
Yes.
Voilà.
And I'm gonna get to the end before I tackle
Yes.
the why is it or may why so but I'm gonna wait till the end
Okay, sure. We'll save that for the end.
because it seems like it should be they didn't at
uh,
least that thought didn't
mm-hmm,
disturb my thinking, but rather
mm-hmm,
weighed like scales on my eyes.
mm-hmm,
Elle est empêchée.
mm-hmm.
Is that like began?
Good guess. It does look a little bit like empezar,
Like a
right?
cognate for empezar?
I never thought about that, but it does.
But no.
Unfortunately, sometimes it helps us, but not here,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So, empêcher means to prevent. Empêcher means to prevent. I don't think there's any way for us to really
Empêché.
guess at that. But
Yeah.
empêcher does mean to forget. I'll send the infinitive here for you. It's a regular ER verb to prevent. Empêcher.
Empêché.
Mm-hmm.
Elle est empêchée de se rendre compte.
We,
That I'm not sure about. I mean, if
yes.
prevented them from opening would make sense, but I can't see where. I know
Yes.
rendre is like render,
Right, exactly. Now this
but
really
compte
yes, this
count,
true. Literally it can mean that, but this is one of those
but it's
set
an idiom.
expressions.
Yeah.
Exactly, it's an idiom. So I don't think we could guess it. So se rendre compte happens to mean to
Give account.
realize.
Yeah. Okay.
To realize is what it
Mm,
communicates. So I sent that se rendre compte. It's a set, like you said, it's an idiomatic expression. It's a set expression to
mm,
realize.
mm.
To realize.
Compte. Le
And
bourgeois n'était pas allumé. Go ahead.
oui,
Something else.
oui, c'est ça. And bougeoir is the
His-
candlestick.
Okay.
Bougeoir is candlestick. We saw before that bougie, which is Bougie,
Uh-huh.
means
Yes.
candle. So it looks similar. It's coming from the
Mm,
same idea, but bougeoir is candlestick.
okay.
And then n'était pas allumé.
N'était
Allumé.
pas allumé. N'était pas allumé.
Mm-hmm. Do we recognize what allumé might mean? Maybe not.
Lighted.
Yes, exactly. So allumé,
Illuminated. Yeah.
yes, like allumé, lit, exactly. It wasn't. So with all that, how would we translate this last portion then? Et les empêcher de se rendre compte. How would we put that all together in an English translation?
It kept my eyes from seeing, from realizing that
Mm-hmm.
the candlestick or the
Yeah.
head was
Mm-hmm.
not lighted.
Exactly. It's not lit. Exactly. So he's again.
So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, strange. It's an odd little thought here.
I
I
was
guess
gonna
he
say
was
he's.
thinking, because at the beginning he talked about how
Oh
he
yeah.
was trying to remind, I like thinking, well, I got to turn off the candle,
Right.
or which he had already done.
Right.
So I guess he's sitting here thinking, still thinking about that idea.
I
About I've got this task to do of turn of
yes.
I don't quite realize I didn't notice that the light is already
Right.
off.
Right. Yeah, there are those little details, and I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm not supposed to be so specific because these things do occur to me as well and seem
Hmm.
contradictory. And again, it could be absolutely purposeful. I don't know if he's trying to point to that weird state that you're in when you've just woken up and not everything is logic and there's a bit of confusion and there's
Hmm.
or if it's just incidental, it's I don't know, but yeah, there is a little bit of contradiction there of him kind of going back and forth between assuming this, but yet assuming the opposite, and yeah, there's
Hmm.
definitely a bit of that happening for whatever reason. hmm and you mentioned that you had a question or a comment about mes yeux, mes yeux.
Oh.
Do you recall what that might have been?
Monsieur. Probably pronunciation.
Oh, okay. And the pronunciation, which you did a good job with, is mes yeux. Mes yeux.
Yeah.
So Y-E-U-X on its own is yeux. The X is absolutely silent.
Yeah.
EU tends to be pronounced like like in the number two,
Uh-huh.
de, and the Y sounds like ye. So it's giving us ye. One thing I wanted to mention incidentally as an aside is that in the singular, when we want to say my eye, it's quite a different
Yeah, I
word.
was gonna ask that.
Yes.
Yeah, I
So
know, because it's OI and it's like,
yes.
yeah, I
So
know.
this is the word for
And
I. Uh,
so I remember that
yeah.
from
Mm.
Bataille has something, the story of the eye.
Oh, okay. So we have un œil. Can we say that? Un œil.
And no, yeah.
Oui, so we have œil versus
Oh
les
yeah.
yeux. Les
Yeah.
yeux. Yes,
Yes, yeah.
exactly. Yes, yes. C'est ça. And every time the term eyes comes up, I always tell the same story. So maybe I already mentioned it, but it just makes me think when I was in high school and we had a foreign exchange program. So French students
Mm.
came to visit us at school, and one of my fellow classmates, she wanted to tell someone, "Oh, I like your eyes. You have really nice eyes." But she said,
Hmm.
"J'aime ton j'aime ton œil." She told them, which is like, "I like your
Hmm.
eye," like just one of them, I guess,
Mm.
or he's a cyclops. And I just remember him looking at
Yeah.
her very strangely, like, okay. I guess that was a good
Uh-huh.
lesson for me. I'll never forget. One eye is œil,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
two eyes is yeux. Voilà, c'est ça.
Those
Uh,
very productive mistakes stay with
yes,
you forever.
absolutely, absolutely. But at any rate, any comments or questions about this portion so far?
No, I don't think so.
Très bien, très bien. And so that brings us to our next portion here, which is, oh, one thing I did want to mention is this les. We had les empêchés, which means that it kept
Hmm.
them, meaning his eyes,
Hmm.
from realizing such and such. I just wanted to mention the placement here, I suppose, and the use of les, right? Les empêchés kept them. So
Hmm.
when we have this situation, for example, I saw them, what we
Hmm.
call a direct object, right? We have a verb referring to something and there's no preposition, and we don't want to
Hmm.
keep repeating it, and so we replace it with this plural them. It does trigger les. Voilà. So if I wanted to say something like, "Oh, I see the cats." Je vois
Hmm.
les chats. Right? And I want to shorten it and just say, "Oh, I see them." We know what I'm talking
Hmm.
about. It would become je les vois. Je les vois.
Hmm.
And we notice the placement, right? We're putting it right before the verb in French.
Right.
Je les vois. So that's the same thing that's happening here with les empêchés. Les is replacing mes yeux, and it's going right before our conjugated verb empêcher. I just wanted to mention that, les empêchés.
Hmm. Good.
But with that, can we look at our next portion, which starts with puis?
Oui. Okay, thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
So now so puiselle. Am I gonna connect that or no?
Great. Very good.
Puiselle?
I would not, for some reason, Priel.
No. Puel.
Priel. I think we do not need liaison here. And just to
Okay.
mention that the rules of liaison, there are some very concrete rules, and then it starts getting murky. It starts really getting complicated. And to me, sometimes it's almost about feeling. Like
Yes.
sometimes I just
Yeah.
feel like personally, could I be wrong? Yes, but personally,
Mm.
I wouldn't. No, I want to mention that there are some cases when it's optional. When
Mm.
and in that case, liaison would mean it's a higher register. So it's possible if we're reading
Mm.
literature, we might choose to do liaison versus talking to a friend.
Mm.
But this is just my gut feeling here. Could we possibly do it? I can't tell you 100% no, but my feeling is
Uh-huh.
that Priel, it works for me. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah.
Gut feeling in
It's
the moment.
probably much more standard or much more
It feels to me it is.
natural.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Hmm.
It might sound weird or medieval
Priel.
or, like you said,
Yes,
literary
or,
or
or,
something like
or,
that.
or
Yeah.
literary. And this could fit because we're literally reading literature. So maybe we could say
Hmm.
Prizel. But I just feel like after pre, I don't. If we
Uh-huh.
compare, for example, if I want to say you have with vous avez, when you have a subject pronoun followed by a verb that starts with a vowel, you must do liaison. Now that is
Mm.
absolutely, you have to. Yes, vous avez.
Mm.
With puis, I don't feel that strongly about it. I
Mm.
don't think it's as essential, but that's just my
Mhm.
gut feeling speaking in the moment.
Well, you
Uh,
have so much experience that trusting your gut is probably the best.
oui, so I'm just going with my gut, but for in
Yeah,
the moment, I'm saying puis elle works for me.
yeah. So so we'll keep it separate. So
Yes.
puis elle commençait
Yes. Très bien.
à me devenir
Mm-hmm.
devenir
Mm.
inintellig. Oh, this will be interesting.
Yes.
Inintelligible,
Mm-hmm.
just because it's so like it looks like English.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Comme après,
Oh.
comme après
Ouais.
après la métempsychose,
Oh, très bien. Mm-hmm.
les pensées d'une existence antérieure.
Mm. Okay, très bien. Yeah, that's a good stopping point. So nice because we have some tricky words here. So again, nice autocorrection there with commencer. The en is
Commencer.
nasal. So instead of
Yeah,
n, it is going to
commencer.
be en. Très bien.
Mhm.
And then we have our word devenir. So here's like
Devenir.
with
Okay.
peser, it's the same logic. We have this unaccented e twice now,
Mhm.
giving us devenir. Can we say that one more time? Devenir.
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 Très bien. And then we have this interesting word here. So if we break it down, we have in twice, but actually the in is going to sound a little different each
Mm.
time. So the first in is going to be in. The I is going to sound
In.
like e. In.
Mhm.
Now the next in is going to be nasal. Ah.
Mm.
In.
Ah.
Ah.
Ah, okay.
And then we have téligible. Téligible.
Intelligible.
Oui,
Ble.
téligible.
Gible.
Téligible. So if we break this down into syllables, we have about one, two, un, I, na, te, li, gible. So the gible is all one syllable. And usually
Mhm.
when we have that unaccented E at the end, it's not going to, it's basically silent. So we get
Mhm.
gible, gible. So
Gible.
inintelligible. Can we try that one more time?
Inintelligible.
Oui.
Mm.
Exactly. And then we had this word. You did a great job with it. This is my first time personally seeing this word in French,
Oh,
let
I've
alone
seen it
English.
so much
Ah,
lately. Just
really?
because in this era, I guess it was big,
I see.
the idea of the transmigration of souls. So it's
Yes,
in a lot of poetry, and it's in, I'm reading
love
Ulysses
it.
in English, and it's in Ulysses like m- every
That
25 pages.
explains it because I thought, oh, okay, that was no problem for him.
Yeah.
So we do have métempsychose. Can we say that one more time?
Metempsychos.
Métempsychose.
Oh,
Métempsychose.
so do you link the M and the P? Temp?
Yes. In this case,
Mm.
yes, you have meton and psychos. So a little note here. First of all, psychos, right? PSY, etc. That's
Mhm.
its own word. Psychosis, right? So that's
Yes.
its own usage. And when we have PS together, PSY a lot of times, right? PSYC
Mhm.
even in
From
French.
Greek. Yeah.
Exactly. We will pronounce the P in French. We don't usually. It's psychosis,
Mhm.
psychiatrist, etc. in English, but we do pronounce the P. Psy,
Mm.
psy. So that's why we're hearing the P. It's coming from,
Uh-huh.
psychos. And separately, right, we have before it the TEM, which is giving us temps, temps. So
Temp.
they're two separate
Metempsychos.
pieces or
Mhm.
syllables, if you want to put it that way. So me, because of the accented E, métempsychose.
Hmm. Metempsychos.
Oui, métempsychose.
Cause.
Exactement. And with that Z sound at the end. And then we have our word existence. I just wanted to mention we will hear the C, which will sound like an S. It is not silent.
Mm.
Existence.
Existence.
Oui, exactement. Très bien. So that's what we have. Can we try breaking this down as far as meaning?
Yeah, can we talk about the last word?
Oh, sure.
Because again, I'm getting this three vowels in a row
Oh, yes.
issue, and I
Oh,
wonder if
yes.
this. So antérieur is that
Mhm.
on,
Antérieur.
antérieur
Antérieur.
antérieur.
Très bien. Très bien. So what's happening there? First of all, if we break it down into syllables, an, en.
Mhm.
Then we have te, which is t, and then
Mhm.
ri is its own little syllable, ri,
Mhm.
ri. Then next we
Yeah.
have the eure. That's the next syllable.
Uh-huh.
So the combination eur, because the e at the end is silent, the
Uh-huh.
combination eur, it gives us this open sound, er,
Uh,
er, er. So we're
intelligible.
basically, if we were breaking it down by syllables, the IEUR, it's not necessarily one piece, if that makes sense. It's technically RI, ri, and then we have
Mhm.
our next syllable, EUR. So rieur, antérieur.
Mhm.
Mhm. Can we say that one more time? Antérieur.
En antérieur.
Oui, antérieur is what's happening
Antérieur.
there. Are we okay with that pronunciation?
Mhm.
Okay, très bien, très bien. So,
Yes.
unless you have other comments, can we look at the English translation for this?
Sure.
hmm
Um, so please, I'm not sure about.
Right. Puis means
I want to say it's like pues in Spanish, like well, then, therefore, well, but I
good
don't know.
guess, but this time again, probably not so much because puis means then. Then is in
Then,
next in a
okay.
sequence of actions, for example, then or next. And I did want to mention that, and this is 100% sure, not liaison, but just when we're pronouncing the word on its own, the S will be silent, if that makes sense. So it
Okay.
is puis on its own. Puis.
Yeah. So puis. So then,
hmm
so elle is now referring to
Yes, I'm scrolling back up to see here.
the same thing, the belief.
Yes, exactly. Croyance.
So began
hmm
to become unintelligible
Yes.
to me.
hmm
And then we have this next part is complicated. I think there's going to be some.
Yes.
I think the subject is a little inverted. So après is
Yes.
before,
So après is after.
after.
Après is
So
after.
after, yeah, after.
Yeah. Before is avant.
Uh-huh.
AVANT.
Okay, après. So as after
hmm
metempsychosis, which is your soul has traveled, like
Yes.
reincarnated.
Yes.
Um, then it's the next phrase is the pensée is going to
Yeah.
be memories or thoughts
Thoughts.
of
Thoughts.
previous existence.
Exactly.
So he's comparing
Yes.
the thoughts of a former life,
Absolutely.
an earlier life,
Yeah.
to in a similar way to
hmm
how elle, comment ça s'appelle? Devenir
Yes.
unintelligible.
hmm
Similar to how I guess how in one's new life your past lives are
Yes.
gradually forgotten or
Absolutely.
disappear.
Yes.
So is this sense of living in this book starting
Absolutely.
to disappear for him.
That's absolutely what it is. Absolutely.
Mhm.
hmm C'est ça. Absolutely. Très bien. And then any more questions on this? Yes, some of it's very dense and very specific.
Mhm.
So I think maybe for me anyway, I can only speak for myself. Possibly, even if this were in English, I would have to break it down a little and keep track of what are we referring to, what's being said,
Right. Yeah.
what's the overall thought behind this, because it's very
Yeah.
dense in a certain way. Oh, oui, c'est
And
ça.
I think so far we've covered about 3 seconds of time
This is
in real
true.
life.
In real life, this would literally be him just waking up. He still hasn't fully woken up yet. It's like 3 seconds. This is true. C'est ça. Très bien. So if we're good with that, can we look at our next portion here that we
Yes.
can see on the page?
Okay. Le sujet du livre s'est déta- détaché
hmm
de moi.
Très bien. C'est ça.
Should I keep going to the semicolon?
Yes. Yes. Sure.
Okay. J'étais libre de m'y appliquer, de m'y appliquer
hmm
ou non.
Oui, c'est ça, c'est ça. So starting with our pronunciation, that was
Mhm.
good. I just want to mention we have this livre. So we kind of saw
Mhm.
that with our word inintelligible. We
Mm.
have, I did say that French tends to be very even as far as
Mm.
rhythm, which is true. But there is something that happens when we have an ending like this. It's one syllable for whatever reason, and we have a consonant, and then sometimes it's an L, sometimes it's an R with an E. To me, I feel like now there's a little bit of what I call a swing. We linger a little
Mm.
bit for whatever reason. So now we say livre. Can we say that?
Livre.
Livre, livre. And this
Livre.
happens
Yeah.
again. We have a similar thing happening in the same sentence with libre, which is Libre. Can we say that? Libre.
Livre.
Très bien. Another time when it happens, just as an aside, is with the word for table, table, table. Can we say that? Table.
Okay. Table.
I feel like we go a little longer on the
Table.
vowel for some
Mhm.
reason. We just hold it a little more. It's just a little thing.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So we have that. But I think for pronunciation, we're good. I did want to mention our verb here, appliquer, with the er
Mm.
that sounds like e. Can we say that? Appliquer.
Appliquer.
Voilà. So in general, when we have a verb ends in er, the infinitive, it will
Mm.
give us that a sound. As far as trying to break this down, what do you understand from this portion here?
So the subject of the book
Mm-hmm.
was détaché, is like detached,
Right.
separated from me.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I was free
Yes. Mm.
from
And we would say here, I was free to, not from something, but I
okay.
had the freedom to do something. I was free to,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. And then the M apostrophe Y
Yes. Okay. So
is an
this,
odd one. So
yes.
that's go
Yes.
ahead and explain it. I've
Yes.
seen it before, but I don't.
Mm-hmm. So we have s'appliquer, which literally, go ahead
Mhm.
and send you that. So first of all, this is a reflexive verb. This is one of those reflexive
Mhm.
verbs. I think French and Spanish have this in common. A lot of reflexive verbs. We don't really have that to the same degree in English, but this happens to be reflexive, and
Mhm.
we can translate it as to apply oneself. So s'appliquer a lot of times can
Mhm.
meaning to make an effort, right? When we apply
Mhm.
ourselves to something, that's the literal meaning. So of course he's making it about himself. That's giving us the M apostrophe
Mhm.
instead of the S apostrophe. Now we do have this letter Y here, which a little bit like don't that we talked about earlier. It's very much a grammatically triggered piece.
Mhm.
So we have s'appliquer to apply yourself. Now, if you want to specify what you're applying yourself to, this
Mhm.
takes the preposition à. S'appliquer à
Mhm.
quelque chose. So in this case, he's applying himself to, or he's free to apply himself to the subject of the book, right? This whole thing where he's
Mhm.
getting lost in this world of the book. Um, and the E, which we don't really quite have in English or other languages. So E is a pronoun that replaces the preposition à followed by something. So again, he doesn't want to have to
Mhm.
spell it out. J'étais libre de m'appliquer au sujet du livre. If we spelled it out to
Mhm.
avoid having to repeat that, he's replacing au sujet du livre with e. Okay, so this e
Mhm.
replaces again the preposition a plus a thing. So I'm going to
Mhm.
give you an example. If I want to say, for example, oh, I'm still thinking about this movie. Like years ago when we saw that movie, that French movie Amour, I still think about
Mhm.
it to this day. But je
Mhm.
pense toujours au film. I'm still thinking about the movie. Now let's say instead, I just want to say I'm still thinking about it,
Mhm.
referring to the movie. Now, because to think about is penser à, which we just have to remember. To think about something, to reflect on it is penser à quelque chose. So
Mhm.
now that I want to replace film, I can't ignore the preposition. So to replace au film, I use e. I use this pronoun e, which is the letter y, y, and it
Mhm.
becomes j'y pense toujours. I'm still thinking about
Mhm.
it. But
Mhm.
again, the reason why we're using this y for what we call it in English is because it's actually replacing a plus some noun that's a thing.
Mm.
Voilà. So it's just a grammatical rule, we can say. So going back to our sentence, this is why he's using the E, because he's
Mhm.
replacing something that involves this ah. The expression to apply yourself to uses
Right.
ah, and it's triggering the E. And so we have the me, the M apostrophe is short for me, the reflexive portion. Uh,
Right.
we're following with the Y, and this happens a lot. We do this with je as well. When it's followed
Mhm.
by a vowel or with this letter Y here, we're going to shorten the ME to M apostrophe, and we run it all together. Mi
Mhm.
appliqué. Mi
Yeah.
appliqué. So that's kind of what's happening there. Um, and the translation is interesting, but uh, what do you think he's getting at then? J'étais libre de m'y appliquer ou non?
I'm free. Well, you suggested
Yes.
to apply myself to the subject of the book,
Mm-hmm,
to
mm-hmm.
work, to think, I guess, think mentally.
Right.
I mean, he's not really doing much physical labor, but
Right.
to
No.
mentally
Right.
um, get back to
Yes.
get his mind back on the book,
Exactly.
or he
Yeah.
could not do that. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. However we want to term that in English. So I looked at a translation, literary
Mhm.
translation in English, and what they suggested. But the translation is quite formal. But they have
Mhm.
here the subject of my book would separate itself from me, leaving me free to choose whether I would form part of it or no. That's how they
Mhm.
chose to do. But like you said, the idea behind it is he going to continue to indulge in this situation where he's a part of the book, or
Mhm.
is he going to accept
Mhm.
that he's awake and that was just a dream?
Right.
That's the idea behind it. And I wanted to mention this j'étais libre de. Now, it's true that de sometimes can mean from. He's
Mhm.
from Spain, that sort of from.
Mhm.
I just got back from the store. But here, this is just, again, a set sort of thing to be free. I guess we could say to be free. Yeah, to be free to do something, I should say.
Mhm.
It's just a set thing. Être libre de faire quelque chose. We happen to use de. It doesn't really translate to a particular thing, but if we want to express an idea, it takes the preposition de, if that makes sense. So it
Mhm.
doesn't really express to be free from something. It actually means to be free to do
Yes.
something in this
Right.
case. Voilà, c'est ça, c'est ça. Questions on this portion here.
No.
And I
Yeah.
also wanted
I
to
think
mention,
that's good.
très bien, that we see again our imperfect. Voilà. So that's why in
Mhm.
that translation, they translated it as the subject of my book would separate itself from me because
Right.
this is
Right.
something that used to happen all the time. hmm So
Yeah.
technically in English, sometimes we might say separated itself, but this is not just one night. This was night after night after night for a
Mhm.
long time. This is what used to happen. So that's what that's about.
Hmm.
Très bien. So we have that. And I think we're almost at our time. So if you're good stopping
Yeah,
here, I
that's
am.
good.
And since we have like 3 minutes, I did want to mention just a little extra piece about E, because E is very important in French. It
Mm.
comes up a lot. So just as an aside, I'll mention another aspect of E. We just said that E replaces a plus some sort of object, something, some noun that is a thing. But
Mhm.
also, that can sometimes be a place. This is very common. So sometimes it's not the case here, but sometimes E can be translated as there. It can refer to a location. So this is
Mm.
an example that I'm sending you. If I want to say I'm
Mhm.
going to Paris tomorrow, if only, je vais à Paris demain. Voilà, je vais à Paris demain.
Uh-huh.
Let's say I want to shorten that and not have to specify Paris and just say, oh, I'm going there tomorrow. So we do have a preposition à followed by a thing. It happens to be a
Mm.
place. So I can say j'y vais demain. J'y vais
Mhm.
demain. Now we see that same thing. Je became J apostrophe. And in English, we're going to translate that as I'm going there tomorrow. So sometimes
Mhm.
E will serve the role of there, not all the time, right? But
Right,
it
right.
can serve the role of there. And then a last note where it also has the idea of location is E can also, in addition to a plus a noun, that's a thing, it can also replace prepositions that have to do with location, like
Mm.
sur, which is on, dans, which is in, DANS, sous, which is under, etc. E can also replace these prepositions, and usually in that case, again, it does translate as there. So here's an example. If I want to say il travaille dans un bureau, he
Mhm.
works in an office. By the way, we have the AIL combination again. Travaille. Il travaille dans un
Travail.
bureau. Um, if I just want to say he works there, I don't want to have to repeat
Hmm.
in an office. I can replace dans un bureau with this e. Il y travaille. He
Okay.
works.
Yeah, that's simple.
Il y
Il travaille.
travaille. Right? He works there. So just to
Hmm.
mention that e oftentimes replaces a with whatever the object is, the noun, but also it can replace prepositions of location
Right.
with the noun. It serves that purpose, and in that case, usually it's the idea of there. So that's
Yeah.
a little
Doing
overview
some
of the.
heavy lifting there with one letter.
That's true. So much you can do is just a single letter. Très bien. But I think that that is good. For now. Ouais,
Sounds
c'est
good.
bien. Très bien. So with that, I will go ahead and stop the
Thank you.
recording.